for a special event at the Ella Sharp Museum, artist Tom Fruin, and member of the board of the Ella, Georgia Fitosik. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And welcome to Jackson. You just got in.
Literally about a half hour ago.
Awesome.
So we drove down the main street and saw some of the sights, but no, you're my first stop.
Well, great to have you here. And you're here. It's a good thing you got here today because there's a special event tonight at the Ella honoring you and unveiling your sculpture. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But Georgia, tell us how this all came about.
It's friendships. Chris Wardout from Jackson is a friend of mine, is a friend of Tom's, introduced Tyree Guyton, the Heidelberg Project, to Tom. And when Chris saw Heidelberg here and how well done it was, he went back to Brooklyn, New York, where he lives and Tom lives, and said, can we do a piece in my hometown of Jackson?
And I was surprised because your installations are in places like LA and New York and Miami, so Jackson, little old Jackson. But it turns out this is the kind of town you really want your art in. Why is that?
You know, I'm always trying to reach a really diverse audience, and I think it's fun for me to kind of go outside of what you'd consider like the art market or the traditional forums to present art in. So I think it's just part of my mission. Like I make things, I just want them to be seen, so I'll bring them to you, you know? So we're here. I mean, the part of Tyree's installation at the Ella Sharp, you know, we struck a friendship up some years ago when I put this exact piece in his Heidelberg project in Detroit.
This actual piece
Yes.
that we're looking at right now,
Yep.
Street Ministry.
Yeah, it's funny that it actually did not have a title when it was there. I had exhibited it first in Los Angeles and then in Denver, Colorado, and we were making its way back to Brooklyn, and Tyree invited me to sort of insert myself into his, you know, living sculpture. And so we used one of the side yards of one of the structures and set it up, and it stayed for maybe 3 or 4 months. But at the time, I still didn't have a title, and we kind of had a quick friendship. And so I just thought, you know, who better to name this piece than Tyree? And he actually didn't come up with an answer right away. He slept on it. And then the next day called up, and he's like, I got it. Street Ministry. And I was like, there it is. It couldn't be better.
I like it. A lot of people driving by in the last couple of days obviously have noticed that it's pretty obvious, especially when it's lit up either by sun or by light. And people are saying, oh, that's a nice Christmas decoration. But it's a permanent installation.
Well, we're hoping it is. Yeah, we got to raise money.
Yeah, we have to raise money. But that's the goal, is to have that become permanent part. One of the things that I don't think you can tell from looking at your art and Tyree Guyton's art is that you have a lot in common with how you create art, and that is using recycled materials.
Sure, definitely.
Stuff you find. Mm-hmm. All this plexiglass and steel, it looks like it's, I mean, where do you find stuff like that?
It's funny, you know, now that I've been doing this for a number of years, I've become that guy. So if anyone has a scrap piece of plexiglass or signage, they'll bring it or just lean it against my studio door. But I'm out and about a lot. Like I go on lots of walks, but I'm always collecting things, picking things up. But this is sort of an extension of an earlier series of works where I was making quilts from little smaller scraps. You know, not exactly cigarette butts, but just any, you know, coffee lids or drug bags or other things. It was part of my investigation of New York when I moved there in the late 90s. And I just was, you know, suddenly thrown into this big city. I didn't really know anyone or know where I was. And I started looking around, and these scraps on the ground seemed like almost breadcrumbs of the activity all around me. Like I was starting to understand what was happening and where I was, and maybe even a part of who I was, you know, through picking these things up. Eventually I had this idea that I thought I'd make a commentary on the human condition of like picking up all these, what I was considering very abject pieces of garbage, and then I'd sew it together and make a quilt, kind of turning the American tradition of warmth and family and protection and security. And I thought I'd turn it on its ear and show everyone how ugly it was. But it turned out that I got the opposite result. It really seemed like it celebrated our diversity and our uniqueness. And in a way, I just wanted to sort of share that revelation by making these larger outdoor pieces like this house one here.
Yeah, well, they're kind of like quilts out of glass. This tonight will be unveiled at a reception, but pieces that we've seen pop up on screen, you're really known for. Let's go back to the water tower, which is in Brooklyn, and that is in the Dumbo section of Brooklyn, and it's become an icon for the neighborhood.
It has, yep.
And we've got, I think, a couple different shots when the sun, coming through it, and at night it's lit to it. Right?
It is, yep.
It's not the only water tower. I mean, this is like your signature piece now.
It's become a series, which actually continues to grow. I think there's 12 of them out there. Some of them haven't been delivered because there's some issues with rooftops and permitting and other engineering concerns. But yeah, it's been about 13 or 14 years since the first one of those water towers. I made a house sculpture in Copenhagen, and when I came back to New York, I tried to figure out, a house doesn't make that much sense in Brooklyn, a typical peaked roof house. So I thought to myself, what would be the sort of an iconic shape that's sort of overlooked that I could transform and make my own somehow? And instantly I thought the water tower would be perfect.
The location of the street ministry at the Ella, tell us about that, Georgia.
We wanted it at a point of high visibility and accessibility, and that's, there's a stoplight there. We're in a very high traffic area, and where it's positioned, you can see it as you drive, and it's lit. But we also like the juxtaposition of the new with the old, Ella's original farmhouse. We think it'll draw people in. We're wanting folks, even when the museum galleries are closed, to know that we have outside accessible art, which really fits with what Tyree and Tom are really striving to do, is to bring art to the people.
So there's not velvet ropes around your type of art. It's designed to be touched, and you can actually go into the little house that this is.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It changes your perspective when you're inside, because you're sort of looking out through the kaleidoscope at the world around you. So hopefully it changes your own perspective.
Do the pieces that make up your works, do they have individually any meaning, or are they just the scraps?
Well, they're based on these earlier quilts that I was making. And in some of the pieces, they're more rectilinear. Sometimes there's more of this wobbly kind of grid shape, but they are direct references for me. It's sort of a personal experience, so I don't know if that communicates fully, out to everyone else. But they are sort of blown up versions of these earlier quilts.
So the method, you've got that inspiration, for instance, Tyree. Mm-hmm. But what about the inspiration of the style? Where do your work? I mean, some of it looks Mondrian, but you've got, I think, Frank Lloyd Wright. Some of it as well looks like those people might have inspired you.
Sure. It's funny. It seems like the technique came after. I started with the inspiration of using this found materials, and then sort of blowing them up to share it with the public. But the plastic material is mainly because it relates to the earlier quilting. But they have sort of a religious almost feel, in that it's all encompassing and you're actually inside of it.
Yeah, stained glass, obviously, the big feature of churches. Georgia's, I think, working on another event or exhibit to do with quilts in February. That's
what we're going to, I think we're going to have some of what Tom brought in terms of quilting.
You brought some quilts today?
Now.
You'll need them tomorrow.
But this is all coming together quickly. And then Thomas agreed when our Toston found in February, early spring, happens at the museum, that we can have perhaps some more of the pieces. As Tyree comes down, there'll be more space for Tom's work to really talk about found objects.
Georgia, you've got a couple of pieces that you were involved with, a couple of large-scale sculptures in downtown Jackson.
Yes.
Are you going to take Tom by them?
We are. I'm going to be driving him by the Mechanic Street Bridge. That I'm so thrilled that came together. We saved the bridge. And, you know, Louise Nevelson has sculptures in New York City. Tom's very familiar, and to know, he's pretty excited to know we have a Nevelson. So I showed him right down the block from JTV, the Nevelson.
And of course, we're in the middle of all these bright walls. Have you had a chance to see any of our murals?
I have, and I'm familiar with it from before. I hadn't really put it together until I got here and started seeing all the murals. And I'm like, I know all this, you know? I mean, it really seems like an art destination. I couldn't be happier to have a piece of my work here.
I was watching a corny rom-com Christmas movie last night that was set and filmed in London. And in several of the scenes in that movie, the backdrop is a mural by one of the artists that did one of our murals. It's like, oh my gosh, that's our mural. But it's our artist. It's amazing the artists that have created these murals. What does Jackson, as an arts community, what's your impression of Jackson as an arts community, Tom?
Well, it seems very historical. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but the town itself seems very rooted in, I mean, I don't know, it seems almost classic American, you know? I feel like it's a perfect place.
Yeah, I think we take it for granted what we have here. I know we've had this conversation before.
We have. You know, that's what I was explaining to Tom, is that, you know, what we tend to lead with is, this is great for a community the size of Jackson, instead of, this is great, and helping us see what our potential is. And we have challenges. We know we can walk down the street and see those challenges. And we want to celebrate what's really great about the community. Just coming downtown during the holidays now and seeing the blue lights. You have a bird's eye view, right? The blue lights around the poles and the trees lit up brings a spirit to us, even in challenging times.
Well, it's great to have you in Jackson and here on our show. Thanks to both of you for being here. Tonight at the Yella, there is an artist reception, but it was RSVP only, and it's been completely filled up. But you'll be able to see this installation, well, from here on out. So come by the museum and enjoy it. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Barb.
Artist of Street Ministry, Tom Fruin, and board trustee at the Yella, Georgia Fatasic.